Welcome back to BookTeaTalk, the book podcast where two sisters read a book together and chat about it each week over a cup of tea. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Maddie. Today we're diving into Throne of Glass, chapters 14 through 27. We'll be talking about the growing tension between the characters, the sketchy stuff that's going on in the castle, and the competition that Celaena is fighting for her freedom in. And we're going to also deep dive about some very interesting lore.
This is a very stacked episode, and we will be talking about all the spoilers in the chapters we read today, so proceed with caution. As a reminder, if you have read the whole series, please don't include any spoilers in any of the comments. But before we jump into the episode, I have to know what tea you're drinking today.
So, I've actually never tried this tea before. I'm very excited. It is lemon ginger tea with honey.
Is it good?
I haven't tried it.
Oh, we'll try
Should
it.
I try it? Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I actually really like that.
I mean, I hope so.
It smells so good. Like, it smells like a fall, day. Like a cozy fall day.
Interesting.
How about you? What are you drinking today?
I will have to say I am glad that you like it. Otherwise, it would have been a long episode with no tea to drink.
No tea
To drink. Okay.
Yeah, I would have been doing that.
I'm drinking the Twinings Winter Spice, I think it was. In my little blue and mug.
Oh, my mug is I think I had this last episode. Howdy, y'all.
It was the last one or the one where we did our intro?
Yeah.
I think. You
I
have had it before, though.
I have more mugs. It's just I always gravitate towards this one. It's so cute.
Yeah, I actually went to go grab one of my usuals, too, and I was like, I think I want to keep to having a different one.
I didn't even think about that.
No, it's okay.
All right. By the way, don't forget to make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you don't miss future episodes. And now that we have our tea and everything ready, let's get in the first section of this episode.
Last week, we did cover Celaena's origin story, her time in Indovir, her arriving at the Glass Castle, and the beginning of the King's competition. But this week, things start to get very interesting, and the heat begins to turn up in multiple ways.
It does. If you have not read chapters 14 through 27, this is your last spoiler warning. The rest of the episode will include conversations about what has happened so far. If you do not want spoilers, now is your time to end the podcast. But don't forget to rewatch after you've caught up.
We are going to start out with a training era montage that we get from Celaena, filled with her waking up before dawn to use whatever and anything she can find in her quarters to train with. She's trying to build up her stamina and regain some of the strength that she lost when she was in Indovir in order to have a fighting chance of winning this competition. And what we see with that is we see Cal is meeting with her constantly for breakfast. I think some lunches too. I could be wrong on that one.
I ship it.
You ship it. And he also is joining her for various training exercises. And then they're spending so much time together, okay? I know. They have some fun banter, and they're just, like, sliding into that motion of just being with each other. Like, I feel like they're always together, honestly. And it's a pretty nice little interaction we see.
Yeah, I'm really liking it.
Yeah,
I really
me
like
too.
them two together. I think they're my favorite so far. I ship it.
I'm shipping it as well.
Yeah.
She has fallen into a pattern of doubling over to throw up constantly and constantly collapsing to the ground as she's exercising, just because she's honestly very out of shape.
So is that the theory? Is that what you think it is? Like, why she keeps throwing up? Is it just because she's out of shape?
Do you have a different theory?
I don't know.
I didn't know that this was a speculative thing.
Is it not? Like, I thought this was, like, some big thing.
Did you?
Like, why she was throwing up so much. I'm like,
Girl, she's been locked away in a prison for, like...
I know.
Months. She was barely eating. She was out of shape.
It could be, the new...
I think you're on something,
area.
But not the right track.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't read into it at all.
Yeah.
We do see that she is not giving up, though. She's very determined to bring herself back up to a fighting chance, And Cal never comments on her moments of weakness.
He throws up, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is quite often. She's quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that he never comments on it. Like, he obviously knows that she's not where she needs to be, but, she's dedicated. We see her getting there, but I
Well,
like that he
yeah.
doesn't comment on it.
I think he knows too. Like, he knows kind of the things she went through in there.
For
So
sure.
he's just giving her some grace for now.
Yeah. We do start to see their dynamic shift from just captain and assassin to loosely being friends in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
They
do
mentioned it a couple times.
what, that they're
Yeah.
friends? Yeah.
Well, no, I think she mentioned something about them being friends, and then he was like, "Friends." You remember that part?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
later on in the chapters that we read, but it is
Yeah.
in there. It is in
But it was
there.
mentioned, yeah.
Do you think that there is a level of trust forming between Kale and Celaena, or are they simply just tolerating each other?
At first I think it was definitely like the toleration part, but now I think they're, developing maybe a relationship in the future, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
No, I do agree. I think at first it was just like, "Oh, you again? Like, I have to be here." But I
Mhm.
think they enjoy each other's company
Oh,
in
for
a
sure.
way. I feel like they balance each other out.
For sure.
And she's not as annoying as she used to be, so that's a good thing. Or do you think she's still annoying?
She's still really full of herself, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, but it's less than what you get in the first 14 chapters.
True. It's very true. She's being a little bit better, but still not to my liking. Mm.
Fair. Do you feel like Kale is starting to soften towards her? Like he's getting like
We
softer.
definitely we definitely see that in the later chapters. I'm sure we're gonna talk about it. But
Mhm.
yes, he's definitely, softening up. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the later chapters right now,
I think I want to talk
or are
about
we gonna
those
wait? Or are
later.
we gonna wait? Okay, okay. I didn't know
I
how I
I
wanted to say so.
think.
Okay.
I mean, I took
Yeah,
very
because
extensive notes,
we're
so
still in training era. So yeah,
yeah.
let's
This
wait.
was like the beginning of chapter 14.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit starting to be a little bit softer by him not really saying anything about her throwing up and not like trying to embarrass her and stuff. So, yeah, you can definitely see some compassion from him there.
And what would you do if your trainer just stood there and watched you puke and then said nothing about it afterwards?
If I was in her situation, I'd be grateful. Like her, yeah. But if a normal situation, of course, please help me. But like
Yeah.
she's fighting against all these men, like she can't show any weakness. So I definitely get her not wanting any pat on the back.
Why would she
And
get a pat on the back for throwing up?
like when you throw up, you just you know?
Oh, I see, I see, I see.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like
I thought you meant
those
like,
are the
"Good
things.
job, man."
No. Like those are the things you do when you throw up. Like you try to be there for the person, but I don't think
Like,
she wants
consoling
that.
them.
She
Yeah.
wants him to look like it never happened. So
I don't
erase
feel
the
like she
memory.
wants the pity of it either, like, I don't think I would want that pointed out, I just,
She's so full of herself.
let's
She would
move
never let.
on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So chapter 14 catches us by surprise. The first competitor was found dead, and not by another competitor. Mm.
That we know of.
That we know of. He wasn't just found dead, he's been ripped open, found in ribbons, is what the book says. This is where the tone of the book shifts to suggest that there's something dark that could be in the works in the castle. Who knows? So basically, on top of the body being found, we found a weird note about Kane showing up to either train or to the test with a weird black iridescent stone on his finger. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Go for it. I mean, I don't really have anything to say other than it's just a weird black ring that I felt was noticeable, as
Okay.
obviously pointed out. What do
Yeah.
you have to say about it?
That's why I wanted you to talk about it because I don't remember that part.
No, I think that was literally it. Hang on, let me get my notes up.
That's literally why I was like, huh.
I kind of figured. So it literally, let me flip to it real quick because I got you. This is why I take
Wow,
extensive
that's
notes
interesting.
for you. Huh?
I was like, huh, very interesting. I think I read that part last week, like that chapter. So
I
that's
read
why
all
I'm
this
like,
yesterday.
oh, all of it?
All of it. All
Girl,
100 pages.
I read like 3 or 4 chapters today, but most of my chapters were last week.
Yeah, okay. So, I'll just read, like, the paragraph. Good. I've felt a bit invisible with that hulking this is between Nox and Celaena.
Mhm.
She asks or she says she knows who he is or whatever. And he's like, "Good. I felt a bit invisible with that hulking lout showing off these past few days." He jerked his chin towards Kane, who was in the middle of examining his bulging biceps. A large ring of black iridescent stone glimmered on King's finger. Strange that he'd wear it to practice. That's all it kind of says about it in that chapter.
Hmm.
There's another note of it later on. I think that I wrote it down in the notes, but I could be wrong. But it only mentions it like twice.
Yeah,
But
I think
it's
I
enough to
completely,
be
like,
like, hmm.
forgot about that part because, yeah, I don't remember that at all.
You
Interesting.
know how you say that you don't like annotators?
I get it.
Annotators know their stuff.
They do, but it also takes them double the amount of time to read a book, but you are getting more of it.
You're
So
getting more out of it.
you are. I just like to
Well,
read
so
books.
does rewriting them down as you're actually didn't highlight that in the book. I just was taking notes on my computer as I was reading.
I don't like
Anyways,
to mess up my book. I don't want it highlighted.
that's fair.
I don't like mine
It's not for
highlighted.
everybody.
Yeah. So later on in chapter 19, we find out more about the victim. His body was totally destroyed with his inside scooped out and gone, including his brain. So basically, we found out his organs his organs were stolen, snatched,
Mhm.
or eaten.
Or eaten.
Are they eaten? Is that like what the beasts feed on? That's my like theory.
You think there's beasts involved?
Duh. Do you not?
It it doesn't mention that there's beasts.
Okay. Well, I think there's beasts.
Yeah.
That's
Is
my
that so
opinion.
that's what you think caused the murder? Was a
Oh.
beast?
Yes? Do you not? Is that not like what's going on? Like obviously there's a beast that like
No, it seems like a beast. I mean, it's
Do
it's
you
easy
not?
to no, I do. I think it's easy to assume that it could be a human, but also just by the pure like
Animalistic.
thank
Yeah.
you, the
Yeah.
animalistic detailing of the crime scene, like it just seems like it's not necessarily human. So,
Yeah. Agreed. I think it's definitely some type of beast, some type of animal, like, you know.
yeah.
Um, what do you think is the big deal with the black ring?
I don't know. I do think it'll come back up later on though.
Okay.
I mean, we see it come back up later on in the chapters a little bit, but I think that it has like it's enough to mention it, so it makes me think that it has something to do with something later on.
It could have been like a gift for committing the murders or doing something like that or showing that he's a part of some sort of sketchy thing, like
It could
a
have a little bit
cult.
of magic tied to it.
It could, yeah.
I don't know. We've kind of seeing like some inner workings of magic going on,
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
I guess we'll see what
I guess
happens
we'll
with that.
see. Yeah.
One thing we do start to see more in these chapters is Celaena collecting friends and allies, like
Mhm.
specifically with helping Nox with his throwing stance, something she arguably did not have to do and shouldn't have done. It does start to show us that there is a softness in her that contradicts the assassin persona that everyone only sees her as. We
Ship
get
it.
additional information about Selena's homeland, Terrason. You ship what?
Her and Knox.
What are you?
Her and Knox. You don't like
Knox is a
Knox?
little he's a cutie.
I
No, I
like
do. I think
him.
he's a
I
nice
ship it.
little a nice friend in a moment that, she needed a friend.
That's her future husband.
Someone to see her
Okay.
as a normal person. Oh,
That's
okay.
her future
Got it.
husband. Her
Got it.
him and Kale, both. You know, we don't know whose it's gonna
She's just
be
gonna be
yet, but
collecting the husbands. She's just
honestly, I
collecting all the
think Dorian's
husbands.
in line as well. So you know what? Whichever
I
one
think so
is
too.
better at that point. So
Okay.
he has a couple to pick from.
Alright. Okay, she has options.
She has options. Yes, I
We
love that for her. Hopefully she
exactly.
doesn't pick Dorian. I don't want her to pick Dorian because he's a player. All right.
Yeah, which we see later on as well, which we'll get to.
Oh yeah, we
We
will
do get
get to
additional
that freaking
information.
Dorian. Okay.
Okay, we do get some additional information about Celaena's homeland of Terrasen. It is
Mhm.
noted that it's been 10 years since the royal family was butchered by the king of Adarlan. And we get a little backstory montage for Cal and Dorian's friendship. We see that they were the only boys of high ranking power growing up in the castle at the same time, meaning they learned together, they played together, they trained together. And Cal's father moved his entire family away at the age of 13. Dorian convinced the captain of the guard at the time to take Cal under his wing as an apprentice. Apprentice? Yeah, I said that wrong.
Mhm.
But
Fair.
Cal's father rejected the idea of that. He did not like that. He was not having it. But Cal abdicated the title as the next Lord of Anelli to
Yeah.
his brother and left the next day, anyways, to go with Dorian. Which was a lot, but it was nice to kind of see the backstory on how they were friends because you could tell it was more than just a captain of the guard and crown prince relationship that they had. So it was kind of nice to get that tidbit of information.
Like almost brothers.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
They're a lot
Which
closer than just
yeah,
the regular.
you can tell because they don't really talk the way that you would speak to someone who has higher power and status than you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
They
still be
kind of bicker
acceptable.
like siblings. Yeah.
Exactly. We
Exactly.
do find out that one of Celaena's scars is from when Erobin decided she wasn't equally skilled with both of her hands with swordplay and gave her the choice. I'll break your right hand or you can. So what did she do? She
This
went
made me cringe.
I know. She went into her room that night and stuck her hand on the doorframe and slammed the door on it so that she would be forced to make her left hand equal to her right hand in training. But can we point out that it does say a lot about her that she went and did it herself? You have to be strong
Yeah.
to break your own anything, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like impossible to break your own things, but yeah, she did it on purpose. So I don't know. She's very mentally strong, that's for
She
sure.
is mentally strong. And then we also get another information tidbit where Kale asks Celaena what she did to deserve the scars on her back. And she says,
Yes.
deserved? No one deserves to be whipped like an animal. Like, are you crazy? And
Yeah.
then we learn that on the first day that she was in Indovir, the guards dragged her into the center of camp and gave her 21 lashes. Simply for just being there. Like, that's what it sounds like,
And
anyways,
I
for being
and I
caught.
think I think Kale is starting to feel more for her because he's finally realizing how bad that camp was. Like, of course, they knew it
Hmm.
was bad, but like now somebody he's starting to care about, like him thinking about her being in the camp, just really upsets him. You can tell that. So
Yeah, I do
it's very
agree.
interesting.
It's
Yeah,
also one thing to hear about bad things happening, but then to have it put into perspective by someone who actually experiences it
yeah,
and you can see the pain, the trauma that it's caused them. I feel like it just takes it to a whole new level.
exactly. I would definitely agree.
And then we also hear Cal tell Dorian to stay away from Celaena. Says
Mhm.
she may be pretty, but she is still an assassin, my guy. It's interesting that we can both tell, and they can both tell, that each other is developing some sort of crush or feelings for Celaena.
We
As
all know.
in, we are getting a little bit of a love triangle.
Yes! Oh, it's crazy. I love it. It's actually kind of funny, like, reading that and seeing how they're both going back and forth and kinda
Hmm.
arguing with her a little bit, so I like that because you can tell, like, they don't want to show that they both like her, but
But it's
they
also
can
very
sort of
obvious.
they're both jealous people, and they're just kinda going back and forth. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good.
What do you think Celaena helping Nox says about who she really is beneath the title of a Darlin's assassin?
So I do wanna talk about Knox. I love
Okay.
Knox, okay? I love him for
Mhm.
her. I am going to be so mad at, Sarah J. Maas.
Did you just have to look who the author was? Bro,
I forgot, okay. I'm gonna be so mad at her if she
hold
kills
on. I'm gonna
off
be
Mr.
so
Knox.
mad at Sorry, it cracked me up.
No, I'm gonna be so mad at her if she kills him off because he seems like such a sweetie, and obviously Celaena like sees him as an ally or somebody that she can trust because otherwise she wouldn't be helping him train.
Mm-mm.
So I really, really like him as a person. I hope that they work together in the end.
I also feel like, sure, she is an assassin, but I do feel like she was an assassin because of her situation. Like, she didn't choose to be an assassin. She was
Mhm.
captured by somebody when she was 8 and just trained to be that way. So I think
Exactly.
that deep down, she does have, like, a kind heart, and
Yeah.
she also senses that from Nox. Not all criminals are bad people.
Mhm.
Sometimes they just are led to do the things they do because of their situation, and it's unfortunate, and maybe they still shouldn't, but you gotta have, like, sympathy there where it is due too.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Would you trust Celaena if you were a competitor in the competition, like, if you were in Nox's shoes?
I would because I wouldn't know who she is, right? Like we find out later some of the competitors know. Um, but if I were Nox, I would just be like, "Oh, this is a nice girl who seems like she knows her crap." Like, yeah, I would trust her because she's not a big scary man. So, I mean, that's just my
That's
opinion.
true. I
If
kinda forget.
yeah, if I
Good.
was Nox, I would definitely trust her because she's good at what she does and they don't really see her as a threat right now.
Yeah, I and it's a good point. I kind of forgot that at this point, they don't know that she's Celaena. She's Lillian, who is a jewel thief.
Exactly.
She's not an
Exactly.
assassin to them.
Yeah,
And
she's not a
also,
threat.
you're in a competition where everyone is fighting for their freedom. It's not just
Mm.
her. And none of them wanna go back to the situations that they were in. So of course you're going to take any slight advantage that you can get in the competition, and if that comes by help from someone else, like all for it, you know?
Well, yeah, shoot, I would do the same thing. Um, for the first test, we're gonna talk about our archery. Oh, that one was crazy. So she was testing her archery skills, but Kale tells her to not show off during the test, no matter how much she may want to. Remember, the goal is to fly through the competition in the middle. So, what is the solution? What does our girl do? To show off just enough. The last bullseye that no one else landed, no problem for her. Cal scowled, but Dorian, he smirked. So we find
Mhm.
out during the whole test situation, she is going through the line. She's like, oh my God, I got this. Okay. She's like, I already know I can do this with my eyes closed. She probably was thinking that, honestly.
She probably
Um,
was.
she's 100% so confident. She knows she's got it. So us as the reader, we're like, okay, like, is she like secretly gonna fail? At least that was me. Were you kind of worried when you were reading
No.
it? She was 100% confident, but I was like, oh my God, this confidence is kind of about to bite her. You know what I mean?
No,
But
for how much they play up her confidence, there was no way.
true.
She was all talk and no bite. Like,
Yeah, but she absolutely killed it. Kale was a little bit upset. But because she did more than what she was supposed to. Didn't she land like perfect bullseye on the very last one that was really far away?
yes, and no one else was able to get that one, not even
Yeah.
Mr. Kane, or maybe Kane did. I think Kane got.
I don't think he did. I think she
No, it
mentioned
did.
that
It said
nobody else
nobody else
got
did,
as good on the last one.
which
He
is
got
why she
all the
wanted to
bullseyes
do
on.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he didn't get that one, specifically because he
Exactly.
didn't get that one.
And she mentions that the little dot was so far away, it was so tiny, it was like a little grain of rice that she was shooting.
She couldn't even see it, like,
Exactly. Which is insane that
and she
she's
still got it.
yeah. So why do you think that Celaena struggles to hide her skills?
In all honesty, I think it's because she's a little conceited and she likes being the best at everything, so it is hard for her to play that down, and because that's just not who she is.
Exactly. She mentions multiple times that she wishes everybody would just know who she is so they can quit laughing
Mhm.
at us, which I think is definitely some ego issues,
Just a
but
little.
just a little bit. Do you think Kale should have been worried about the successful last shot?
Definitely. I mean, if her whole thing is to fly by in the middle, you are the only one who got that shot, my girl. Like, it's
Mhm.
obvious that you're holding something back from everybody. It's not even just a luck shot. Like, if you can't see it, no one else got it, and they're all trying very hard, that we
Yes.
assume.
Yes.
So obviously it just shows that she's more skilled than what she's putting out.
Exactly. How do you think this test sets the tone for the rest?
I think just because we see everybody else, like, really giving it their shot. We see no one's there to play games, like, yeah.
She mentions like she was like one of the last ones to go, right?
Yes, because she got
Yeah.
pulled to the side to talk
Mhm.
to I
Yeah.
believe oh, yeah, when Kel pulled her to the side to tell her not to show off, she was, like, one of the
Exactly.
last few people to get in the line.
She's like, "Okay, fine. I won't show
She's like,
off."
"Ugh,
And then
darn
shows
you."
off anyways. And she mentions there when she was shooting the arrow that she was aiming for, like, not the bullseye,
Oh, yeah, she was very skillfully aiming for
the
just out
incorrect
of
spot.
sight to know
Mhm.
that so people could basically see, "Oh, she kinda knows what she's doing, or she is a good shot, but she's not perfect," you
Exactly.
know?
But that last shot, it was just luck, huh?
Just luck.
If you were Selena, would you overperform, underperform? Would you wanna show off?
I feel like I'd be tempted to show off just because at this point, like, everyone's kinda seeing her as a laughing stock,
Yeah.
or would be
Mhm.
seeing me as a laughing stock if we're playing it by me, but I feel like it'd be hard to not try to show off and be like, "You guys are laughing at me, joke's on you, okay?"
Yeah.
But I feel like it's definitely the smarter way to underperform
Yeah, definitely.
because, I mean, as we see later on in the tests, like, these people are willing to play dirty and, there's no rules in the tests, so who's to say that someone's not gonna come after me and try to off me, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
That is what I would be worried about because Kane has his little friends, right?
Mhm.
So, what if they see her and they see her as a threat and they just show up and try to murder her one day like the people whose organs are out of their body? It's
Yeah, and
very
it's also
possible.
too, like, you don't wanna be the best of the best because then people start looking into who you really are.
Exactly. Exactly. You just gotta kinda stay under the radar. I
Exactly.
agree. I agree.
Let's move into Dorian's problems. His
Oh
mother basically is hitting him
god.
with marriage propaganda while also telling him he can't possibly expect to marry for love as it doesn't equal a successful marriage.
Can we
And
pause?
then
Can we pause?
yes,
Okay.
what are we pausing for?
Dorian's mommy doesn't know about the competition.
No,
What?
nobody we get told in, like, the first few
What?
chapters, the only people who are aware that there is a competition going on is, like, the king, the sponsors of the champions themselves, like, that's it, no one else is supposed to know what they're there
I just
for.
think it's really crazy that his mom doesn't know. You know what I mean?
But, I mean, if you also think about not that this takes place in a time period or whatever, but just traditionally, women in
Yeah, I get what you mean.
secondary to, like, the king and stuff like that, like, they're not in the know. They're there for show. They're there to host parties,
Produce
host the
babies.
courtiers, produce babies, like, they don't get told what's
Yeah.
going on unless they're just in a really, really awesome situation, which 1 in 10 people maybe are, so it's
Yeah,
not
not
that
many of them
surprising.
back then. I agree. I
Yeah.
definitely agree, but I just assumed that she knew, so when we found that out, I was like, "Wait, what?" That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's crazy. We do get a little bits of information where Dorian is internalizing that he's experiencing discontent and feels like something inside of him doesn't fit in with the courtiers' merriment and their willing ignorance of the world outside of the castle. So we're getting a little bit of like character development, I guess, on like a different perspective of Dorian.
Yep.
His mother also hands him a list of eligible women at court that would be right for the crown for marriage under her approval, which is wild. Arranged marriages, you know.
Mhm.
She says a princess would be preferred and suggests the princess Nehemia, as
Yes,
you predicted potentially
I
in
did.
last episode.
Did predict that, yep.
I also want to point out, I thought this was bizarre. Why
What?
did his mother call him her pet?
Oh, I didn't catch that. Did she?
No, yeah, she literally goes, "You're sulking again. Are you upset over something, my pet?"
Oh,
Huh?
yeah. I think I do remember that. I just thought that was the
Like,
way she talks. But it is kinda odd.
sure, but
It's
I've
definitely
never heard
odd.
anyone ever call somebody else their pet.
Especially their grown son.
He's like 19.
Yeah, he's
Not your pet.
literally an adult. Yeah, he's very
It's
odd.
he might be your baby, but he's not your pet. He's
He's
not a
not your
dog.
pet. No. No, yeah, that was it's a little odd.
It's a little
Aw.
cringy.
Yeah.
He also expresses concerns about Nehemia's visit, given the rumors of her support of the Elohi rebels and efforts to shut down labor camps. He is super like, why is she here? Sussy.
Yeah.
She's
Mhm.
sussy.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
also get told more about the agreement between Parrington and Lady Calton. She's only
Yeah.
at the court because when they ran into each other in the spring, her
Mhm.
and Parrington, she convinced him to bring her to court under his assumption that he might get special treatment from her for doing so. But you can clearly see in their interactions, she is so disgusted by him being near her, by him being talking to her, and she's clearly playing him for a better arrangement.
For
And it's just
sure.
kind of interesting.
I thought that was a little bit eye-opening. I kind of
Yeah.
enjoyed seeing that side of her. I was like, "Dang, maybe I do kinda like her a little bit," you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of
She's
it's
a little cunning.
yeah, I kinda like it. She kinda reminds me a little bit of Celaena because I feel like that's something
It
Celaena would.
also It also puts her into a different perspective that, again, women in court situations are always trying to better their situations.
Yeah.
And so she's obviously just out here trying to make connections to better off herself. We don't
Yeah.
know anything about her family. So
And it's showing us
we all,
that, like, she's faking, Celaena's faking, who else could be faking? You know what I mean?
everybody fakes in the courts.
Literally, it's what it sounds
It's
like,
all
so
literally, it's
yeah,
political games. Like it's all court situations is. But I
just
like that
opens our
about
eyes.
books.
Yeah.
We also do see Lady Calton propose the idea that Dorian propose the idea to Parrington that Dorian might be into Celaena, i.e. Lady Lelaine, for
Mhm.
the idea of marriage, to which Parrington gets visibly upset and says, I can't tell you why, but that would be foolish of him and impossible.
Yeah,
So she's a
yeah,
little like, there's something there and I need to find out more,
yeah.
which
I gave her just a
also
little hint, which is
agree.
like, "Oh, no, she's gonna be researching and trying to figure out who she is," so
Yeah, she's
we're
gonna be
gonna see
on to her
something.
tail now.
Exactly. She's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we also get brief interactions between Dorian and Celaena that seem super
Mhm.
flirty as she talks to him in ways that would not be befitting to talk to the crown prince. She gets very
Yep,
sassy and snippy with this man.
she
She does
does,
not
a
care that
lot.
he's the crown prince.
Yeah, she does not care at all. It's actually very disrespectful
Also,
when she
yeah,
does it in
she's
front
just
of people
again
too.
being full of herself.
Yeah, because she's supposed
In
to be
this
a lady.
situation is crazy.
She's
Yeah.
supposed to be a lady, and she's not being a lady, you know? She's not playing the part well
Mhm.
enough, in my opinion. But
No, I agree.
we'll see.
Celaena also, around this time, internalizes for the first time that she has the urge to kiss Dorian, which kind of took me out. It was like left field, came out
Yeah,
of
I was like,
nowhere.
"Girl, what?"
Like they've kind
Like,
of been
what on
flirting,
earth?
but I wouldn't have jumped to the conclusion of, oh, you're ready to kiss this
No.
guy.
Yeah, not at all. I feel like they don't even know each other that well yet. So, yeah, no.
They don't. She spends all
Not
of
in
her
my
time with
opinion.
Kale, not Dorian. Like,
Exactly, like, why don't you want Kale? He's so much nicer too.
yeah. And then we do get a scene where Dorian walks in on Celaena playing the piano, like she's deep in her
Mhm.
feels, and then he sits down beside her and she starts freaking out because she obviously didn't see him come in, which again, she's supposed to be this BA assassin, you
Yeah,
know.
and she's
How'd you
playing
not sense that?
piano. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And then she asks him if he is allowed to be there without Kill, to which he says, I could be anywhere I want. I'm the crown prince. She goes, yeah, well, I'm a Darlin's assassin. So, and then he says, I like this moment. He says, from your playing, it seems you're a great deal more than just that. And I thought that was sweet.
It's sweet, but how many other women does he say that to?
We don't know. We do find out that the song that he walked in on her playing was she was playing for an old lover who had just passed away. His name? Sam. He
We do
died
learn that.
13 months ago. They were both betrayed by those they trust. He died 2 weeks before she was sent to Endovir.
Yeah.
I think I know this, and I don't know if it's a spoiler for you or not, but I think Assassin's Blade is about Sam and Celaena,
Is
like
it?
their story. I think so.
Interesting.
I could be wrong, but I don't know much about
Oh,
Assassin's Blade, but I think that that's what that story is
kind
about.
of worried
'Cause I know
for
it takes
that.
place before she gets sent to Endovir, I'm pretty sure.
I'm kind of worried for that because once I see a character with another character, I kind of get attached to them and I hate anybody else with them. You know what I mean?
But also, I mean, if it is about him, we know that he's not alive past that, so how
Yeah,
attached are you really gonna grow, you know?
true.
Guess we'll find out if that's really what it's about or
Yeah,
not, though.
guess we'll see.
And in this moment, Dorian and Celaena have an interesting scene, and I just wanna play the scene for you.
Play the scene. Okay.
Dorian tells Celaena it can't be easy being lonely all the time. Celaena says she'd rather not be seen as one of his lovers, and he doesn't understand what would be so wrong with that. She goes, I'm already a notorious assassin. I also don't want to be notorious for sharing your bed. She says, is it not enough for me to tell you I don't take jewels and trinkets as payment for my affection?
Oh,
And he gets visibly offended. He's insulted. He says, I'm not going to debate my morality with an assassin who kills people for money. And she's just like, get out. I'm not some odd commodity that is here for you to gawk at, for your entertainment, your adventure in this confined life of yours. And
mm-hmm.
then also, we see Dorian internalize that if she wasn't an assassin, he might want to further the relationship between them and suggest, you know what, may do it anyways, despite the consequences it's going to have.
So we can tell he really
So
likes
that
her.
was a lot to process, no, for
I
sure.
I thought it was very interesting the fact that she mentioned that he just wanted a little bit of adventure in his life. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like that was a very low blow because obviously he doesn't like his life and he's
Also,
his dad and things like that.
her also just mentioning like all of his partners that he's had are just because he pays them in expensive jewels and trinkets, and like she's
Mhm.
not that type of person.
Exactly.
Um
Just kind of rude.
yeah. But
Mhm.
I do like her for calling him out. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not like, my
I
life
definitely
isn't
agree.
some game for you. It's my life, you know?
Yeah, I definitely
But
agree because
do
he thinks he can get whoever he wants, you know?
yeah. It's like, I'm the crown prince. I could do it.
I can do it. I can do it.
Do you feel bad for Dorian, or do you just think he's a privileged prince having an identity crisis?
Yes, I think he's privileged and he wants her because he can't have her kind of thing. I don't know. That's just my opinion of him right now. I'm sure it'll change. I think the book is setting us up to love him. But I like Kale more. Next.
I do still like Kale more, I think, just maybe because we have more interactions with him, but I do kind of feel bad for Dorian just because most people in the situation of being brought up to be like the next ruler, like they don't have control over their life. Like it's all set out to be what's best for the kingdom, what's best for his family. So I do think he's having a privileged situation, and I wouldn't say so much as having an identity crisis, but I do think that he doesn't agree with everything that's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Definitely. The second test is climbing the castle wall. 90 feet up to rescue the golden flag. Celaena could have easily won, but she sacrifices her spot to save Nox from falling to his death. Okay, this was crazy.
I agree.
This was really, really crazy. I really wasn't expecting this. But basically, we get more info on her assassin training where Arobin forced her to stand on the ledge of his keep. Wait, what? What is that?
Like his not castle, but like the headquarters for his house.
Okay, we get more info on her assassin training where Arobin forced her to stand on the ledge for hours on end to get used to heights.
And this is preparing her for this test specifically. Or her experience in that is
Wait,
helping her in this
what?
test.
What did you just say?
Like this experience from her
Oh,
backstory is
I thought
helping
you
her
were
manage in this test. Like,
thought
she's
you were
saying, "I'm
giving
not afraid of
stuff
the
away.
height situation because of this."
Okay. I thought you were giving things away. I was like, "Huh?"
No,
Okay.
I'm saying, like,
Okay.
she mentions it because she specifically is saying she's not afraid of what's going on because this is nothing. Like, I've already had to do this in my
Right.
training.
Right. Yeah. Okay. He also trained her himself, but brought the best tutors, fighting masters, poison experts. He then waited until she was 14, 6 years of training, to tell her that she was expected to pay him back for it all. 500,000 gold coins, which she did, but he spent it within 3 hours. So
Insane.
she so she took forever, getting all this money, stealing it from people, however assassins do, earning the money, and then he spent it within 3 hours. What? So,
Irresponsible.
so the test. She opted for a more difficult route in the test that would show more skill even while not placing her first. So she knew going this separate way. I think she used like sticky hands or something.
Tar. Yeah, she used
Tar.
tar to make
Yeah.
her hands and feet sticky on the wall.
Yeah. While Kane opted for the rope, because he knew it would get him there faster, but
I think
she would have
most
been
people picked the rope because it was the easy item, because they were allowed to pick one item. They all chose the rope because it was, like, the easier tools to get them there quicker.
exactly. And she knew that too, but she thought that instead of going the same route as them, because they have the big possibility of, like shoving her off, trying to kill her, which we do see that try to happen. But yeah, so she opted for the more difficult route. And
Well,
she
she also doesn't want to place first, and she said, "I could have easily placed first if I had taken the rope. So instead of placing first, I'll use the tar, go a little slower, but I'm gonna show off that I have skill."
exactly. Exactly. So what happens in the test, we see Knox. I think he was like knocked off or somebody cut his rope with a blade.
Yeah.
So that
I
was
think he
really
kinda
interesting.
fell off or, like, lost his footing,
Yeah,
but instead of
as
trying to be able to regain it, like, someone was, like,
cutting it.
cutting off the rope so they'd fall, and
Yeah.
she, like, fall or is on some PVC pipe looking sounding thing and, like, goes over to the situation to save him,
Mhm. Yeah,
and they
and
still drop all the way to the bottom.
she ties the rope around her and they kind of drop together, but she's holding on and trying to save him from dying, which I think that's super interesting because at the
Mhm.
end, they're gonna fight each other. So whoever the last four people
Maybe, they might
are
not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like this is what we're thinking now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be four people left. Whoever's left is going to fight each other. Yes, it makes sense to have an ally right now, but like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, so she saves him, which I don't know, was that a good move? What is a bad move? But also another competitor didn't show up for the test. And we find out that he has also been found dead in the servant stairwell, bru- bru- brutally murdered and mauled, dismembered, dead, killed.
Got it. Duh.
So this is the second time this has happened. Um, yeah, there's some dark
Can we
stuff
talk about
going
how
on.
quickly people are dying off because of this? Like, not even because of the test. Like,
Yeah,
we've seen one
it's
person
dropping like flies.
die because of the test, but that's because they were choosing to try to escape.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and maybe a few others for accidental stuff, but, like, they're just popping off with the coming
flies.
up missing and not
R.I.P.
being alive.
So, would you have gone back for Knox during the test?
I think I would have, only because we're still months away from the final. Anything can happen between now and then, but I feel like it doesn't ever hurt to have a friend and an ally. Like, they all know what they're signing up for. So obviously, we can be friends even if we both know at the end of this only one of us is going to be able to win. So if we get to the point where we're fighting against each other, but we're all that's left, like, we both know we're turning on each other, but it's okay to have friends and allies and stuff before that. But also, again, I think she just has a kind heart and she didn't want him to die in such a brutal way.
And also, someone cut
And it's
his
not
rope.
necessary. Exactly.
It
And it's not
wasn't his fault.
necessary.
Yeah.
He would have been able to
Um,
recover had his rope not been being cut.
exactly. They didn't play fair, and she was trying to make it fair. Um,
Hmm.
If it was me, I don't think I would have gone back for him.
No?
But I feel like she doesn't know him well enough yet. Like, yes, she's tried to help him a little bit, and yes, they're friendly and they talk, but, like, at the end of the day, she knows she's gonna have to kill him at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, why risk your life for somebody that you're going to kill regardless at the end?
it's a good
I don't
point.
know. That's just my opinion. I don't think she knows him well enough or hasn't built a well enough connection with him to risk her life to save him. And
I
they
don't know,
did
I feel
also
like they've
mention
had
they don't
what?
they did also mention that they placed last and second to last. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, the only thing that saved him from being eliminated was someone else fell and died, so he was able to still,
Yeah, make it.
make it. Yeah.
Mhm. Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. I just really don't think it was necessary. I mean, I'm sure his character is very important. That's why this happened. But if I were her, I don't think I would save him. But yeah.
Fair enough.
So what do you think her saving him says about her character?
I kinda already mentioned, I think that it just means she has a kind heart, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, they talk a lot about her being an assassin, and it's clear that she's an assassin, but I don't know, I feel like there's more to that, like, I don't really feel like she is an assassin.
Yeah.
Like,
I
she
feel
is
like
and not at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna learn more about her in the coming books, about her
Mhm.
time as, like, an assassin back then where she was earning money and stuff. Because
The assassin's blade.
exactly, but I don't know if I really think that she was out here just murdering
I don't
everyone
either.
and anyone. Like, I think she was only murdering
The
really
bad
bad
guys.
people or
Exactly.
people she knew killed other people. I don't think she would be the type of character to, like, just murder for money.
No, I
So
don't either, especially just no one who didn't deserve it.
exactly. So I guess we'll see more of that later on.
We start to see more of Nehemia as she is learning the
Nehemia.
common tongue. Nehemia, as she's learning the common tongue from our girl Celaena, and we start to see she knows more than she is willing to talk about as well. Celaena. I like that name though.
That's a good name. I like
That's
it.
their friendship name. Ship.
That
Friendship
is
ship
cute.
name.
No.
Celaena and Nehemia agree to teach each other their language against Kel's will. Dorian has an interaction with Celaena and Nehemia where he all but tells us that Parrington is scheming to crush rebels while keeping Nehemia in their grasp to discourage retaliation. He doesn't agree with the strategy and says if he wasn't the crown prince, he would tell her to leave, but alas, he doesn't want to be branded a rebel sympathizer. Interesting notes. Kel gets furious seeing Dorian sparring with Princess Nehemia, saying that it is highly inappropriate. And then Celaena and Nehemia come across Cain near the clock tower, looking at the weird symbol that has been noted to be on the ground. His hands covered in dirt. He had dug out the symbol on the ground, making it more clear. Nehemia tells us it's a Wyrdmark, so we finally got a name to the symbol on the ground.
Mm.
And it's part of an ancient religion that had died long ago. Celaena also spots 3 more symbols in the area that we weren't told about before. And Nehemia finds it odd that Celaena doesn't know about Wyrdmarks? I don't really know how to pronounce it.
Okay,
And accuses what?
I was gonna tell you this.
What?
When I was reading, I called it a weird mark. Like weird mark. Because that's how I
Maybe
read
that is
it.
how it's said, I don't
Because it's with a
know.
Y. I was like, weird mark. I mean, it makes sense.
I guess it could make sense. That's funny. But I think it's called a ward. Like a ward?
Word.
Weird? I don't know. There's probably like an actual pronunciation
There
for it,
probably
like
is.
based in some mythology. But yeah, Nehemia finds it odd that Celaena doesn't know about word marks and accuses her of hiding something while constantly making a note that she's staring at her brow.
Yeah.
Do you trust what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird
I think it's interesting, maybe
that
based
they
on other lores
that they went so heavy on that, right?
about the brow
That
thing.
yeah. Like why?
Yeah, and then as we get into I think I have another note in here, like towards the end of the chapter section that we read, she gets more into the lore behind word marks. And so put a pin in that and we're gonna circle back to that
Yeah.
topic of conversation.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
at this point, do you trust Nehemia?
I do trust her, but I think she should just come out and tell the truth, especially to her friend. I don't know how big secret the Wyrdmarks are, but I mean, unless that there's like a reason she can't tell her, I think she should just be honest, especially since they're all over the
I
kingdom. Like,
mean,
why
but they're,
why
like,
wouldn't you
outlawed, it's
want?
part of magic.
Yeah, I know, but like she's seeing them on the castle. Like, why wouldn't you tell?
Yeah, because it's forbidden to talk about. She isn't trying to get put in prison for speaking about magic in a land where the king has literally went out of his way to burn anything and everything that has to do with magic.
But
Why would you
not
come
the
out and say
marks on the
something
ground.
about that?
But not the marks on the
Maybe
ground.
he
Sorry.
doesn't know what they are. Maybe he just thinks they're symbols related to the architecture of the castle. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't believe
I
that.
feel like that's a believable situation.
And not at all. No.
Not at
No.
all? Not buying it?
No, I'm not buying that. No,
Okay.
I don't not trust her, but like why what is she hiding? That's pretty much where I'm at.
I don't think that I don't trust her, but and I wouldn't say that she seems sketchy, but it is like she's definitely holding back information.
That makes sense. Now we're gonna talk about the secret passageways, the feast, Kale versus Dorian. That was crazy. That part was crazy. Okay. So if you see a tapestry that shouldn't be moving in your room, the smart thing to do is probably not investigate it. I'm gonna pause really quick. I didn't know what tapestry was.
Did you Google it? At
I
least?
had to, yeah. It makes sense
Okay.
now. It's like a sheet of some
It's like a
sort.
giant rug,
Mm-hmm.
basically,
Yeah.
or thinner than a rug, but like hung on castle walls.
Yeah. Very interesting
Hmm.
that they call it that. Okay. So, typically, you're not supposed to investigate it, but that's not what our girl Celaena does. She finds herself a secret passage in her chambers behind the tapestry. On the night of
I was waiting. I knew you were gonna. I don't know how to say it either. I was saying like Samhuinn. Yeah.
On the night of Samhuinn, there's a feast. The holiday is where the gods and dead are closest to the earth. It's time to celebrate the coming of winter. People either call upon the dead or light a bonfire with their companions to let the ash fertilize the fields. So I was kind of comparing this to ACOTAR a little bit, if you've read ACOTAR.
Yeah, I have.
I don't know if it's similar to the feast that they do, that
Was
same
it the
type of
fire festival?
celebration. Yeah, they do some sort of celebration, I think, in the winter, I believe. I'm not sure, but I
Yeah,
thought maybe that there's like parallels to that.
there might be. I mean, the
Might
books
be.
are connected in some way,
Yeah, they are.
so it could be something that's like evolved to be something different.
Maybe. We'll see. Celaena does not attend the celebration because she's not allowed to. Instead, but she does really want to attend the celebration. So that's something that we need to know.
Mhm.
Instead, she investigates the flowy tapestry in her room and discovers a secret passageway. The ground looks very undisturbed and she wonders how no one knew about it. She ends up in the sewers, noting that she could easily escape if she really wanted to. And then she ends up looking down on the feast only to find the other competitors were invited to attend, but not her. And also, I did want to note she found herself in the little passageway that was open. It was like open waters, I think, and there was a boat there, if I'm not
Yeah, that was in
mistaken.
the sewers.
Yeah. So she could very, very easily escape, but she
Yeah,
didn't.
and she even made a note, like, she even
Mhm.
attempted to scale the fence or, like, noted that she could easily do that, and she chose not to. Like, she chose to turn
Exactly.
around because she wants this freedom.
Exactly. Yeah, she doesn't want to be like she doesn't want to be a prisoner anymore. She doesn't want to be hunted down after she escapes. She just wants to be 100%
A
free the right
normal
way.
girl.
Yeah.
Normal girl with a normal life.
Yes. After the feast, Dorian enters her chambers at 2 a.m., only to be discovered and kicked out by Kale. Kale then wakes up Celaena to give her a gift from the feast, a purple amethyst ring. Also wanting to note a previous conversation with Kale and Celaena where they are going back and forth lightheartedly about him calling her a crazed animal, and she's saying that she hated him more than anyone alive, then playfully throw bread at each other with grins. So, we can talk about that. They're getting a little comfy with each
A
other.
little flirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dorian and Kale are finally, Let's talk about the scene where Dorian found Kale and they were both outside of her her door, and it was kind of like
No,
an
they were
interesting
inside,
situation.
I think.
Were they?
I think they were
I thought they like met.
inside the room.
In my mind, I pictured it like they met like
No,
right outside the
they were
door.
definitely inside the room because Dorian mentions Kale taking him, pushing him outside, and closing the door and
You're
locking
right.
it behind him.
You're right. I do
But I
remember
do
that.
imagine her quarters to be like separate rooms. So I think she has a separate room
Yeah.
for like a foyer, a bedroom, a bathroom.
She does.
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming they weren't like staring at her when all this was going on. Like
Yeah.
she was in a
Because
separate room.
she would have woken up at that point if they were like
For
right
sure.
in her room.
Yeah.
But I thought that
One
was
would think.
interesting that Kale basically was like, Dorian, you're not supposed to be here. Like, why are you here at 2 a.m.? Blah, blah, blah. And then Dorian was like, why are you here? And he's like, what I do is none of your business. And then he shuts him out. So
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting, very telling.
And it was very cute how he gave her the ring. Like, I don't know, it was cute to me. She
I'm
like
sorry.
woke up with it like on her and was like,
I know this is very contradictory to what I said the first episode that we ever did, but I'm liking Dorian more now.
because of this one scene?
No, just him in general. I feel like he's more
Okay.
heartfelt than Kale because Kale was
Because
like,
literally, our part 1 of this video, you were Team Cal.
was I?
Yes, I'm confused where this is
No,
coming from.
I'm still Team Cal, but I'm warming up to Dorian now. Okay, but I didn't like how he gave her the ring and then said, "Oh, everybody else got one."
Right, like you could have like let her feel special.
Okay, that's not what somebody wants to hear, but okay. And
I
then
am picturing like a big fat costume ring though, like
well, I was picturing like a small, just little purple ring, like a tiny little ring.
yeah, but like why are they handing that out to the guests? Like I don't
Like what if
understand.
they're different ring sizes?
A good point. Maybe it's an expandable ring.
Maybe.
If such thing existed in their time.
Yeah. But the bread thing throwing at each other, I thought that was interesting too. Yeah.
That was such a cute scene.
That was a
Like, I don't
cute
know,
one.
maybe like giggle a little bit or
Yeah.
giddy.
Yeah. Especially since she spent so long like eating moldy bread and now she's just throwing bread playfully. That's like interesting.
She has the ability to throw normal bread.
She does. So if you were Celaena, who would you trust more at this point? Kale or Dorian or both? Who do you trust?
Honestly, maybe both of them. Like, they both have different things going for them, you know? They're both nice to her in a way. And honestly, if I'm thinking like from her perspective, neither one of them have really done anything to justify not trusting them other than Dorian is literally attached to the crown, like he is the crown prince, where Kale is, I mean, he's still the captain of the guard, so he's still attached to the crown, but not in the same like sense. Like, you know?
Yeah.
What about you?
I like them both right now. I don't really think it's like a matter of trust because I feel like we don't know much about the characters to officially like trust them yet. But
Yeah.
we can definitely see some sort of like love triangle forming. So I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, okay, I think this still happens on the same night as Samhuinn after she goes to sleep. From my preference, this is what I took it as. So, chapter 25 is massive when it comes to lore for this book, at least up to this point. Celaena dreams about roses, like the smell of roses, as she is traveling through the passages. And this is a dream, so not like real life.
Mm-hmm.
And she stumbles upon a tomb and a spirit with crystal blue eyes. We'll get back to that. So, a description of the room. Okay, we see a marble sarcophagus. Do you know what a sarcophagus is?
Okay. This is the scene that I'm like,
I know. You said
need
you
you
were
to
getting
break it
really
down.
confused.
I need you to like
Okay,
write
well, I
me
got
a
you. I have
picture.
a whole like noted thing here.
I need like an illustration. Like I don't know what half these words mean. What is a sarcophagus? I don't know.
Hang on, let me see if I can pull it up on my phone so I can actually share it with you.
Okay.
Wait,
can we talk about the crystal blue eyes? I think that's very important. You just skipped it.
Well, yeah, because that was just like a description of this section. But I have a spot talking about the room, a spot talking about the person, you know, so we'll get there. Anyways, so this is like a sarcophagus, like what you would see like when mummies got like buried and stuff. It's not wanting to focus because
no, I got it. Anyway,
so that's like so there was a marble sarcophagus and there was a woman and a man. So I think two different ones. So picture like two mummies, and I'm assuming they're standing up. The woman is bathed in moonlight because there's a hole in the ceiling.
Wait, the sarcophagus
just enough.
Is standing up?
Yes, they normally are standing up, like, against the wall, I think. I could be wrong, I don't really know, like, Egyptian lore, and I don't know if they're only in Egyptian, like, lore, but to my knowledge and, like, opinion, this is what's going on. And so, yeah, the woman is bathed in moonlight from the ceiling because there's, like, a tiny little hole that lets just enough light to shine down on the woman's sarcophagus. The man, however, is bathed in darkness, like there is no light shining down on his. The man is, though, holding a stone sword, and both of the figures were wearing crowns with a blue gem in the center. You following so far? Yeah. So there is a Wyrdmark engraved in the woman's sarcophagus, and it reads, times rift. Huh? Like, what does that mean?
So you want to know what's so funny? I read
What?
sarcophagus like esophagus, and I was just like imagining like
What were you imagining? Please tell.
like like the words.
Where
Like,
is this going?
her esophagus, like
Etched into her esophagus were
like a
words?
tattoo. Like
Okay, but if you read sarcophagus as esophagus, what was in the room?
what?
Because there are marble sarcophaguses in the room. Okay,
Look.
in this open room.
I was struggling.
What were you
through this part.
picturing?
I was. I'm telling you, I was barely there.
Okay, well, it's good that we're
Okay.
doing this then.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I said. I needed an
Well, let's keep
illustration.
going.
Okay.
Okay, is it getting a little easier, a little clearer for you?
But I don't understand the
Yeah,
times
okay.
rift. What does that mean?
I don't know. We don't know. It was just
Right.
written
We know
is
nothing.
etched into her sarcophagus. We don't
We
really
know
know what that
nothing.
means.
Okay.
It just sounds really weird, but it does kind of sound like rift hold times rift. They're in rift hold, I think. Interesting. I don't know if that ties together or not. Anyways, okay, carrying on. The floor was covered in stars and the ceiling depicted the earth, like the room was designed to look like it was upside down. Got that? There were
get
word
it now.
marks all over the rooms. Okay, so there's a bunch of little symbols everywhere. The woman had arched ears, meaning
Yes,
she
I got
was fae.
that. I got that.
Okay. And our girl Celaena knows a little bit of her history. So she's like, the only fae married into the Havillard name was from 1,000 years ago, and she was half-blooded. So she's only half fae. And that fae married a man named Gavin, who was the first king of Adarlan. So this is obviously Gavin and Elena's tomb.
Is
Oh,
Gavin
wait, I
fae?
skipped that part. Gavin was human.
Gavin's human. She's half.
So she's half fae, half human.
but even if
And
you're
the
half,
woman's name was
you still
Elena.
have pointed ear.
I don't know. We don't know anything about the fae in this story, Maddie. So the woman is Elena, the first princess of Terrasen, who is Brannon's daughter and Gavin's wife and queen. Do you remember these people?
No.
Okay. So do you remember like the first Throne of Glass episode we did when we talked about Brannon's forest?
Yes.
How Brannon was a fae ruler.
Mhm.
So this is his daughter, Elena. And
Was
Brannon
Brandon good?
fae. I don't think we really know anything about him other than like he was the ruler at the time.
So he
The
was
fae
fae,
ruler.
and then obviously his wife was not fae. If his daughter
yeah.
is half fae.
Yes. And Terrasen is where Celaena is from. Okay. We caught up?
Caught it.
Okay. So, and then there was also the sword that Gavin was holding was named Damaris. It was a
Yes.
legendary sword, and it was displayed before a suit of golden armor. Cool. And then all of a sudden, Celaena's processing all this in her head, right? All of a sudden she hears, "You know your history." That was creepy.
The
Right?
way that
She
you said
turns-
that terrified me. And that was
What do you,
that
what
was
do you
very
mean?
scary. Okay. Anyways,
You know your history.
like I kind of, that was icky.
Got the ick?
Yeah.
She turns around to see a female with crystal sparkling blue eyes. It's not a... Hang on, can I finish the sentence?
Is Elena's Dorian's ancestors?
Probably. Dorian has blue eyes that we don't know where he got them from.
Sapphire-like eyes.
Exactly. That's
Which
what I
is
wanted to talk about
crystal-like.
too. Exactly. But it's still interesting. Okay, hang on. Pause. We'll come back to that. The person, Elena, she turns around, sees the person behind her. It's a female, not a ghost, but a spirit. The spirit of Elena. And I do think that she's Dorian's ancestor, but it's interesting that if they're all related, why does no one else in Dorian's family have blue eyes? He has siblings, does he not? He has a brother. Why does he not have blue eyes? Why does his mom not have blue eyes?
Is he the chosen one?
His dad doesn't have blue eyes.
Maybe he's not actually related to them.
Well, I mean, I can see maybe the mom not having blue eyes because she married into the line, but if they're dominant, why does his dad not have them?
Yeah, brown
It's
eyes
interesting.
are dominant.
Then we get this massive dump of information from Elena, okay? I don't like that word. It's not massive. It's not that big. You read the chapters.
It's a lot, though.
We get this eerie message from Elena, okay? She says, she risked much to be there tonight. The gargoyles that we keep mentioning, they're guardians that guard the portal between their worlds. What worlds? We don't know. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything has a purpose. Celaena was meant to come to the castle. She was meant to be an assassin. Something evil is dwelling within this castle, echoing into all of the worlds. What worlds? We still don't know. She must forego all of her friendships, her debts, her oaths. She must stop the evil before it's too late and a portal is ripped open so wide that it can't be undone. She says, you must win. You must become the king's champion. You understand the plight of the people. They need you as their champion. Elena hands Celaena a golden amulet. She shoves it into her hand and says, this is meant to protect you from harm. Run. They must not catch you here. We were both led here tonight by someone. They want you to learn. They want you to see. Celaena takes the amulet. She runs back to her room. She turns around. She hears growling and a voice cry out in agony. And she wakes up with the amulet in her hand and the secret passage slightly ajar. Huh? I didn't like the way I said that at all. Like, crazy stuff just happened in that chapter.
Yeah, I'm tired for her. Like, I feel like I need a nap after all that. It's a lot.
Yeah, okay. When all that was going on, did you have a hint? I mean, you obviously were clueless because you said you were confused, but did you have a hint that this was actually happening?
Yes, I knew.
Or did you think it was a dream?
I knew it was happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
She mentioned a couple times that, like, it felt very real, but she thought it was a dream, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did think it was a dream.
Yeah, so that's how we knew it was real.
Do you think Elena is trustworthy? Like, do you think she has good intentions or whatever?
Her. Yes.
Point blank.
Yeah, I do. I do
too.
I feel like
it seemed very genuine.
Yeah, she seems like a good person. And then she also mentioned the evil. And then we've been seeing a lot of evil lately. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I trust her for sure.
I do want to know, like, the stuff about the worlds. Like, what worlds are we talking about?
Yeah.
Why her delivering the message? Who is wanting Celaena to learn this information? The eyes. I still want to know why she has the same eyes.
I agree.
What was your reaction to the scene as you were reading it, other than being confused?
It was just like, what is going on? I'm going to be so honest. I'm like, this came out of left field. I was not expecting this. This is
like the most action we got in the book so far, I feel.
Yeah. So before I read Throne of Glass, I have seen online, like, this is a very, like, harder book to read because of all the fantasy stuff going on. Because, you know, there's certain books that are, like, light fantasy, medium fantasy, like, heavy fantasy and stuff that you need to remember. And I was told this book was high fantasy and, like, stuff that you need to know and remember. But while I was reading it, I was like, yes. But then when I was reading this, I was like, oh, good God. What am I doing?
Let me get out my pencil and paper.
No, literally, I'm like, I need to take notes on this because I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, I knew what was happening. Like, I read the words, but I was just like, huh? It was so confusing.
Yeah, it's fair. I remember when I read it for the first time, I was just like, hang on. I think this is my book. As I was sitting here reading it, I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, it's like so confusing.
It's like the first, and it's like the first little well, not really the first, like, magic inspired stuff that you get in the story, but it kind of feels like the biggest jump into magic.
It's the first time magic's used in the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just, like, really magical.
Yeah, I get that. I agree. And then more bodies turn up. Bodies with organs missing, brains gone, like Kayla, sometimes her brain gets gone.
Rude.
And Wyrdmarks written in blood, like some sort of ritualistic sacrifice. Bum, 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 bum. Anyways.
You playing the piano?
Was it piano?
The organ?
For dramatic effect.
Okay.
Kayla enters Celaena's room all frantically, demanding where she was last night. The test day had been canceled due to yet another champion being found dead this morning. The body was half eaten. So, I was actually upset with Kayla in this scene. And I think that's why I'm a little bit more Team Dorian.
Why? Because he was accusing her?
Why didn't he
Yeah.
accuse her for the other million bajillion bodies that have been found?
Right, also, she has guards outside of her door.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And second of all, he saw how mutilated that body was and the stuff written on the walls. Like, why would she do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That made me upset with him. Kale, -2 points because of that. Dorian's ahead of you right now. That's what's happening.
Okay.
Celaena heads back into the tomb to investigate. The shafts of the room were lined in gold. She found no trace of whatever had been making the noise from her dream, or Elena for that matter. Celaena heads to the library next to do research when she stumbles on the body that had been found. It's terrifying. His chest cavity was open. He was missing organs. His brain was gone. The flesh from his face had been removed. I am so mad at Kale. 3 Wyrdmarks written in blood on the wall. Why would Kale accuse her of this? This is ridiculous. Anyways, in the conversation with Kale and Dorian, we find out that no one has heard from the king, and Dorian remembers one time the king disappeared like this, but had been many, many years since. Nehemia warns Celaena not to research the Wyrdmarks. Nothing good can come from it. They talk in graphic detail about the murder victim, Nehemia, seemingly very interested in it.
She also wasn't, like, I don't know, like, she wasn't put off by the description, which was interesting. I mean, I guess she is kind of like...
Yeah, it was mentioned her guards did not let her close to it.
Mm-hmm.
But she asked Celaena how the body looked, and Celaena was very graphic and described how it was. And Nehemia was just very interested, but not, like, surprised.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
No, sketchy. Maybe Nehemia's out here murdering people. We'll see.
Maybe.
Kane walks up behind them, and it's noted that he's gotten significantly larger. What?
Like, his muscles and stuff had gotten bigger. Like, every time Celaena is seeing him, he's getting, like, larger in size. Like, not chubby, but, like, muscular.
Like a beast.
Like, in his build. Yeah, you know, yeah.
He tells Celaena that pretending to be a lady doesn't make her one. He also calls her out for having to pull her talent during the test and hints that he knows exactly who she is. My jaw was on the floor. It was.
Were
It
you?
was on the floor. I was like, what? How does he know? I was so
Parrington is
shocked.
his sponsor. Parrington, the guy from that's in cahoots kind of with Lady Calton, like Duke Parrington.
The wife. He's trying to court her or something.
Yes, but if you know, I mean, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I think Duke Parrington was in the room with Cal and Dorian at the beginning when they had, like, first taken her out of Endover. So he knows exactly who Celaena is. I think he's, like, one of the only ones who does, but he does know.
This makes sense because I was like, what?
He's basically hinting that, like, Parrington has told him who Celaena is.
That makes sense. Celaena tries to pull herself between Kane and Nehemia, but Nehemia senses that something is off and tries to guide her away from the situation. Celaena goes into a massive deep dive about what she's been able to come up with on Wyrdmarks, even though some of it seems to be more legend and conspiratorial at best. Let's rewind a minute about Kane.
Okay.
Do you think Nehemia found out who she is?
No.
Because he said
sorry, go ahead.
It was mentioned that he was saying it all, like, in English, and she was, like, banking on the fact that Nehemia doesn't really know English very well, or their language very well.
He also didn't point blank say she is somebody else. He was just throwing really low jabs at her.
But he hinted that she isn't who she says she is.
Yeah.
So Nehemia might, you know.
I mean, she already has her suspicions as well, though, right?
Do we know that?
She has already told Celaena that she thinks she's hiding something because she's like, there's no way you don't already know about Wyrdmarks. So the Wyrdmarks are an alphabet, but no grammar exists within the marks. They are symbols strung together, meaning they can change depending on the marks that surround the symbol. They're difficult to draw, requiring precise lengths and angles, or they become something else entirely than what they were meant for. The Wyrd, Wyrd, is the force that holds together and governs Aurelia, which is a continent, and many other worlds. It's not a religion, at least in the northern continent. It's not included in the worship of the goddesses or gods. Some theories suggest that the mother goddess is just a spirit from one of the other worlds and that she strayed through a word gate and found Aurelia in need of form and life. An ancient civilization might have existed before the goddesses arrived, but disappeared. Maybe through a word gate. And we find out that runes exist that predate the Fae. So they're not obviously the first, rulers or first things to live in this area. The word gates are both real and invisible things. This is what I wanted to focus on when we're talking about the brow. Humans cannot see word gates, but they could be summoned and accessed using the Wyrdmarks.
I'm sorry. What? Hold on. So it's an alphabet and
Yes.
the gate? What?
No.
What?
Wyrdmarks. So Wyrdmarks are symbols that kind of represent alphabetical letters, but there's no grammatical, you know how in grammar certain things,
I got that
there's
part.
rules. Okay.
I got that part.
So
But how does this relate
then
to portals?
the other stuff? Okay. So Wyrdmarks are used by the Wyrd. The
What?
Wyrd. We're going to say weird so it's relatable to you.
It's a person?
No. The Wyrd is a force. It holds together and governs Aurelia and many other worlds. So I'm thinking like an energy, okay?
Okay.
Like an invisible magical force or energy that holds together the continent.
Mm-hmm.
And through that energy, they have things called Wyrdmarks that I'm assuming do things, right? So if we're talking about Viking history, Viking mythology, I know, hang on. I'm just
You're making
in
this
Viking,
worse.
I know. Just stick with me for a minute, okay?
Okay.
In Viking mythology, there are these things called runes. Runes do different things. So, they have runes that
Protection.
protect you. Exactly. So I'm kind of using that in reference to the words. This is how I'm picturing them, imagining them working, similarly to what a rune would be.
Okay, but the
Does that make a
portal.
little more sense?
Can we talk about the
Okay.
portal?
Yes, I'm getting there. So then it's just talking about how word gates, just imagine a big arch
Okay.
that's a magical gate that allows you to travel to different areas.
Okay. How is
It's just
this
called a
related to the
weird gate.
marks?
It all has to do with magical energy, magical force.
So weird just means magic pretty much to them.
Kinda. At least that's what we're getting. I mean, it could be different, but this is the history information that she's getting from the research that she's done, which could have some validity to it. But also, because the King of Odarlin has gotten rid of and burned a lot of the stuff related to magic, who's to say all this is true? This is just what she's gathered from her research. Okay? So, back to what I was saying before. Weird gates are both real and invisible things. So they are real, but they don't necessarily can be seen. It's just a magical barrier. I'm assuming that you pass through to teleport, and that humans can't see them, but they can be summoned using Wyrdmarks. If you put some symbols in the ground, maybe it then acts as a teleportation device.
Specific symbols that go together.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I'm getting it. Nice.
And weird gates opened up other realms, some good ones, some bad ones, and things could come through them and enter the continent. And this is where we see that many strange and fell creatures that exist in the continent, Aurelia, come from. Does this kind of make more sense now?
Mhm.
Getting there?
Mhm.
Okay. But what I want to point out is this is kind of a conspiracy theory for me at this point, like a theory. Nehemia keeps pointing that there's something right on Celaena's brow. What if she has a weird mark on her that she can't see?
How would she have that? And how would Nehemia see it?
Maybe Nehemia can see the weird marks, and maybe Celaena's parents drew it on her. I don't know.
With what? Permanent marker? I'm
I
confused.
don't know.
Okay.
Oh no, I don't know. This is just my theory right now.
After baths and everything, it doesn't.
I mean, it's magical.
It's magic. Okay, got it. Got it.
It's not
It's like a
you're
tattoo.
not just drawing it in blood or ink or anything, magical forces and stuff that come to be here.
Okay, you're right.
Okay, and then also in the same scene when she's doing her research, okay, Celaena grabs another book. Well, she doesn't grab it. She notices it laying beside her. She's like, I don't remember grabbing this book. That's weird. But it has illustrations in it of a half-decayed figure with a twisted face grinning at her, flesh falling from its bones. She gets weirded out and notes she doesn't remember grabbing the book from the shelves, like I said.
I'm
But yeah, I
upset
think
that
that's interesting.
she put it back. Because I feel like
book?
that's exactly what the guy was like, you know? Like, he had his
Yeah,
flesh.
because it's noted that his flesh was taken from his face, and then
Yeah.
now we have this book with flesh falling from a bones of a figure.
Why wouldn't she read it?
Because it was creepy.
Sure. Information.
Yeah, information.
That
But yeah, so I thought that was interesting to notice. And then she also, all of a sudden, she starts hearing a groan from the back of the library. But Cal, sitting across from her, didn't seem to hear it. And she's like, "Did you hear that?" And he's like, "Hear what?" And then she hears and feels a scraping noise beneath her, noting that it felt like it came from the floor or from the ceiling that was below her. And then it just turned out to be Cal scraping his knife against the floor because he's trying to scare her because obviously she's paranoid and thinking she's hearing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was a lot.
Yeah. I'm exhausted. Just my head hurts just
Exhausted.
thinking about all that.
But it helps talking about it, right?
And I'm sure there's a lot more to come, but
more.
yeah, it does help talking about it.
Typically in fantasy books, though, speaking from someone who does read fantasy series, a lot of the times, like one book you'll get a lot of lore, the next one you'll get a lot of storytelling and plot, and then like a few books later you'll get more lore.
Yeah.
Like they don't, like not all books are going to be like this, but it's just building up to what's going to be happening. So I think it's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
It's just confusing if you don't have any reference to things either.
Yeah, agreed.
Do you think Celaena is an actual danger from something magical, or is it still a human that is the threat?
Well, obviously it's not a human because Elena told us it's not a human. Elena told us it's somebody evil. So definitely something evil, a beast. Or it could be Cain. Maybe he's just taking them steroids, honestly. Like, we don't know.
Magical roids.
He probably puts a weird mark on his forehead and it's the steroid weird mark. That wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I think she's in danger. I think everybody in the castle is in danger. And I think that's probably why the king left. Maybe that's my conspiracy. Unless it's something after her.
I did think that it's interesting that he's disappeared before. Like, what's this man got going on? I want to know.
I want to know too. Very interesting. Did
anything from the lore, like that I reread about Elena or the Wyrdmarks, stand out to you that we didn't already talk about that you want to talk about?
I think just the book. I really want to know what that book was about, and I hope she picks it up.
And
in
who put it
future
there?
Chapters. Yeah. I think it was definitely something magical that happened that made her hold it for some reason. And I think it's important that she reads it, but it's probably not going to be right now. Maybe she'll pick it up in the future. Who knows? How about you?
After she experiences something, maybe.
Who knows?
I kind of talked about the stuff that stood out to me already. Yeah. So I think that was good.
Good. Yeah. Yep.
All right. That was an extensive deep dive for us tonight and wraps up chapters 14 through 27 of Throne of Glass. We have seen murders, Wyrdmarks, secret passages, the start of a love triangle, and a spirit queen. But that is all the tea that we have for you this week.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on Book Tea Talk. Don't forget to join us next week as we dive into chapters 28 through 39. Until then, make sure you're following us at Book Tea Talk across all platforms for updates, bonus clips, and more. We hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye, guys.